Welcome to Paddlecast with Betsy.
And Billy. On Paddlecast, we talk to and about paddlers who are pushing the limits, paddlers who are pushing their own limits and pushing the limits of paddle sports.
This is our first live on air episode of Paddlecast, so let us know what you think. We are looking forward to trying it out, seeing your comments and questions as we cover this week's news. So we are going to start today with our final update on Sebastian Szubski's Round Britain circumnavigation.
We'll report on the top teams who are finishing the Yukon 1000.
We'll preview the Gorge and recap the MR 340, as well as a new Guinness World Record.
And then we'll finish with the warm down.
So, Sebastian Szubski's Round Britain circumnavigation. This is the week.
Yeah, this is it. By the time you've listened to this, Sebastian will be sort of in the final stages. If you're listening a bit late, he may already have finished. But he started his circumnavigation near Mallaig in Scotland on the 12th of June at 7:32 a.m. So to beat Dougal's record of 40 days, he has to finish back in Mallaig by about 9 p.m. on Monday, the 21st of July.
Yep. But we know that he is after an official Guinness World Record with this, and Guinness does require you to beat the record by a margin in order to recognize a new record. So he has to finish with more than just a few hours to spare, which means he is going to be going all out to try and finish as early as possible, well before that 9 p.m. Monday deadline. What do you think are going to be his biggest obstacles in the next few days?
The biggest obstacle is probably the weather on Thursday. I just want to go back to that Guinness record. I mean, that's a funny way of doing it. I mean, because if Sebastian took a couple of hours off and then someone else took a couple of hours off, at what point do their records would be not very good. So I disagree with that, but we can move on. So definitely the weather on Thursday is his biggest sort of obstacle. He is currently about 40 kilometers from places where you'd describe as good to cross to Scotland or perfect. He he would be there by the end of the day. He's already been paddling since the early hours of the morning. He started before dawn, and he could make that point tonight, and then that would set him up for crossing tomorrow. The weather is not great tomorrow, but just before we went live, he posted an update and he said that he was going to cross now. He's going to go from
from where he is now. So let's share. I'm going to pull up the visual of his tracker. So if you haven't been following his tracker, this is definitely something that you want to be taking a look at over the next few days. So he started, as you say, before dawn. I think it was about 3 a.m. He's been making his way up the coast of Northern Ireland here. And if we look at the map, so last year, Mike Lambert, when he did his circumnavigation, crossed to Islay, which is this island right here. And he crossed from around this point. And that's pretty similar to what Dougal did. Dougal crossed here and then actually went west of Islay. Mike went sort of between Islay and Jura. But we think, again, this is literally like live as we speak, just a few minutes ago, Sebastian said this. We think that he is going to be crossing potentially to this peninsula here, which would be different than what the guys did the last couple of years. Really interesting.
Looks like he could head to somewhere like Machrihanish. I think it's about 70 kilometers from where he is now.
Yeah, you were looking at that earlier, and it looks like an interesting like a logical spot for him to cross to. He said that he really didn't. I think when we had looked at this a couple days ago, we thought he might cross on Thursday because it is pretty big downwind conditions in favor of the crossing. But that could also be, knowing that it's big conditions doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a perfect downwind. It could end up actually being really difficult for him. So it looks like he really wants to avoid that.
Yeah, there's one thing doing a big spicy downwind when you're fresh, but there's a different kettle of fish when you're 35 days into a trip and tired. So, we're making our estimates, from the comfort of the sofa, but he's in the real world, and he's got to make those decisions on how he feels.
Yeah, and we've already seen instances where the conditions ended up being more difficult than were forecasted. And he was actually saying a couple of days ago, Sebastian said that the waves on Tuesday were 2 meters high, if not even higher, which is pretty big. So even if those waves were going in the right direction, it's easy to see why he might want to avoid that on Thursday.
Yeah. So I had speculated that he probably will cross very early Thursday morning. I had even said that there's the slim possibility that he was going to cross late tonight, but he's again blown our expectations out the water, and he's crossing now. So the record is very much on, and I believe it's just a case of by how much. 38 days looks most likely. However, Seb has pulled out some epic days so far, and it wouldn't surprise me if he hardly leaves the boat in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's he seems really determined, and he's definitely taking the Thursday conditions really seriously. So it looks like he's going to cross over today. He's going to cross at this earlier destination. And then from there, we talked about this would potentially be a bit more sheltered for him to cross to Isla or Jura, maybe even going on the inside or between them, which means that maybe he could then be paddling and making up ground on Thursday, potentially, and not have to take it as a rest day and finish really within the next couple of days.
I think from Machrihanish, it's about 200 kilometers.
Yeah.
So
that's still
two long paddles.
Yeah. And he is going to have to be careful too, because these are tricky locations and tricky conditions. And he's done a lot of distance in the last few days. That was Saturday, Sunday, and Monday were all 100 or about 100-kilometer days. This morning he woke up at, I think yesterday was 65. This morning he woke up at before 3 a.m. to do a distance of, well, he's put in about 50K already, and then the crossing will be another.
I think it's 67-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So still pretty substantial. Yeah. So that's a huge amount of distance, but he's done this before. He's in the home stretch. I feel like he's kind of like the horse running home to the barn at this stage. He's got the finish line in sight, and he's just going to smash it out as fast as he can.
Yeah.
Who needs sleep when you can sleep at the end?
Yeah. I mean, and they've got that long drive home. I would imagine he's not going to be the best passenger, and they're not going to get much conversation out of him.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And I do think this, looking at how Dougal and Mike did this bit during their circumnavigations, I remember really distinctly talking to Mike last summer, not long after he had crossed from about this point around Cushenden to Isla, and he went to Port Askeg on Isla next to Jura. And then from there, he crossed to Mull, which we're showing on the map here. which is sort of the next island up here. And he said that crossing from Isla to Mull was basically the worst day of his entire trip. And he had some really bad days. But he did that with some tough conditions. There were there was big waves coming in from the side, even though he was expecting a tailwind. He said the swell was up to 8 feet, which is pretty big. And there's just all of these low-lying islands and rocks and really poor visibility on the day he did it because it was pouring rain. So he had a really, really bad time of that crossing and was really nervous about getting smashed on the rocks. So it is, we're talking about Sebastian just smashing it out from here, but it is still going to be some really tricky spots for him to get through in literally like what will be the last 2 days of the trip.
Yeah, I think he I think he will do pretty okay on this. Like Thursday, once he gets Thursday out the way, and he can cross to Isla in the relative shelter on Thursday, and then it's just a case of paddling with the tide, I think, to the end. I think Friday looks pretty good on the forecast, but forecasts aren't always right, as he's seen.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we'll just look on the map again here so you can see, for anyone watching the visual, how much is left. So he's made it, you can see, nearly all the way around. And that final point where he needs to finish. So he's going to cross, we think here, not sure what he's going to do between Isla, Jura, and Mull. And then once he gets to Mull, it should be pretty quick to get to the finish, which is near Mallaig. I think the beach is called like Bunacame. So yeah, a little bit before Mallaig. So that's where he's got to get to.
The sprint finish.
Home stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, part of the incentive here is that he was worried about not making it because he did end up having to take that rest day the other day, right? Unexpectedly.
Well, with the fog, yeah, they huge banks of fog across the Irish Sea. His Bristol Channel crossing got very dicey due to fog. He said he heard a ship's horn very close to him, and he then got to shore and then didn't cross the Irish Sea the next day.
Yeah. That was tough, and the military zone just a bit challenging there.
Yeah,
unexpectedly found out that he might have accidentally been,
firing missiles at him. Yeah,
not so good. Yeah. So last few days though, and what was it like? I think there's a lot of emotions that come in for the paddlers doing these circumnavigations in the last few days. And, definitely Mike had some mixed feelings last summer, but he did push really hard to the end. Again, one of those things with the finish line in sight, he was doing some of his more brutal days in those last few days. And Billy, you were actually with Dougal on the last sort of 24 hours of his circumnavigation in 2023, right?
Yeah, I was heading out for a paddle and I got a call from Dougal and he said, I was planning on going and paddling with him the next day, and he said, I don't think I'm going to do it on just one good tide. I need 2 good tides. So he, that meant leaving at sort of 11 o'clock that night from sort of around Cromer. So luckily I hadn't got on the water yet. I just turned around and got a lift up to Cromer and got on the water with him. And we paddled through the night to somewhere near Lowestoft on that tide, and then waited for the tide, and then he finished on the next tide. And so it was a pretty big push. Mixed emotions for him. He was relieved to have finished and get it all done, but he sort of then, had the what am I going to do tomorrow sort of issues. which I think is very common. I've never done a big expedition, but I know that people sort of often talk about feeling very flat after expeditions and the like. So Sebastian will definitely have some of that next week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think he has come at it from it's so personal to kind of take on a challenge like this. And certainly Dougal and Mike took it on for different reasons. For Mike, it was very much, about the untimely passing of his mother and raising funds for the aortic dissection charity. Dougal, you could probably speak to that better than I can, but sort of the personal challenge of it and adventure element was a huge part, I think.
Yeah, I think trying to guess Dougal's motivation for anything is you're not hiding for nothing. Dougal's brain is different to everyone else's. Dougal wanted 40 days. He was pushing hard, from the middle of the trip for this 40-day sort of margin, 40-day sort of record. And it's a good job he did push hard, because if he didn't, then Sebastian would have had it really easy.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It is really, it is still going to be tight, even if Sebastian does take a couple of days off the record at this point, which it looks like he might do. It still just really goes to show how impressive Dougal's record is. And Dougal, did this all unsupported. He carried all of his kit with him in the boat. I think we estimated Dougal's boat could have been 10, 15 kilos heavier than what Sebastian has been paddling most days?
Oh, easily. I think even just the boat was probably about 7 kilos heavier. And then he had all his kit on top of that.
So the tent, some days, food.
Obviously, some days he's got to carry water as well, because he wasn't going near a water source the next day. Yeah. So that's tough. I picked up Dougal's boat at the start of the trip, and I nearly couldn't move. It shocked me. I didn't appreciate. I didn't plan it. I just picked it up thinking it was a boat, and then really shocked me at how heavy it was. I think I carried it, maybe on the last day as well, and it was brutal. But he did really well to do that. I had a conversation with John Willesee a couple of years ago about something, and he said records are, people just break records. So Dougal to beat Joe Leach's time by 27 days is phenomenal, but for Sebastian if he lowers it by, if he finishes on day 37, day 38, it's a significant drop on the record. He's not scraped in. Yeah,
it is really significant, and it shows. It's fun to see, I think, like following along your records on hailing, right? That's the sort of round hailing island record that I followed through Paddle Daily last year. You see these records they've got, they're higher and people take bigger and bigger chunks off, and then they start to kind of level out. And it gets really, really hard to then kind of go back out there. Once it's gotten a lot more competitive, the level has gotten really high. And it's really, really hard to knock time off of those records. So it is going to be interesting to see, can Sebastian knock a couple of days off? Looking like it. We'll see how many days. And, then from there, how much is left to knock off? Because it looks like anyone who wants to break that record again is probably going to have on-land support the way that Sebastian did. Dougal didn't have that.
Yeah, maybe,
So maybe it could be possible, but really, really hard. And it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it definitely is. I hope that some people still do it without the land support. That would be a shame if it's removed. That I was chatting with someone the other day, and on the 2 or 3 podcasts ago, I said, this record is almost impossible to beat, and I've been proven very wrong. I was talking to David Hawken yesterday, who said, again, he's probably made the mistake of going, Dougal's record was impossible to break. He said, this one is definitely impossible to break. Now, I think, we all, we all know that it's not impossible to break. It's just, it is now tight. There isn't
Yeah.
much room for error. Sebastian
Yeah.
has probably, I wouldn't like to speculate on how lucky he was with the weather either way. I would say he's had a fair roll of the dice, the same as Dougal had. And they both had better conditions than Mike. And I didn't follow Joe Leach's or John Willis's attempts 10 or 15 years ago. But Sebastian's had a pretty good run of things, hasn't he? He's still lost a couple of days, the lightning, the fog, and a few other things.
The military zone.
The military zone. So you could, if you had a complete good run of it, you could start getting it down towards the 32 sort of day margin.
Yeah. If anyone can get perfect weather, which we'll see. There's a big element of luck in that, and then a huge amount of just the planning and support and everything. But let's give our.
Sorry, you go.
Let's give our official predictions.
Okay. When we wrote this, I was going to say midday on Saturday, which is day 38. And I will stick to that. To be fair to you, I have in my mind, I think I've changed it slightly on now that he's crossing now.
Yeah. I mean, all of this is changing in real time.
Yeah, I like your prediction now more.
Okay. Well, my prediction was going to be late Friday night, which is pretty early. I think that's day 37, which is pretty. So he'd knock 3 days off the record. But yeah, so much is still up in the air. Like I do think if he gets caught out on Thursday, tomorrow, like we could see him end up taking a rest day, and then that would, push him a little bit of a day later. Yeah. But you're saying you're kind of between Saturday morning, Friday night.
Yeah. For the purposes of sticking to the script, I'll say Saturday midday, but I am liking your prediction more and more.
Friday night. Yeah. Well, what we're going to do is invite all of our listeners to make their own predictions. So I will share a link. Let me see if I can actually post this in the chat, maybe, and you can submit your predictions before. Let's see. I think we've set a deadline. I
think you set a deadline of midnight
tomorrow night. I think I said midnight Thursday night, which I'm now thinking was a little bit late. Maybe we'll have to say.
Yeah,
I think we'll leave it at midnight there. Midnight tonight, midnight Wednesday. All right. So you've got to get your predictions in, and are
we going to have a prize?
We are going to have a prize. I have some very cool Paddle Daily stickers. So I think maybe the top 5, if we get 5 really close predictions, really close as in we'd like to see this within hours of correct, then you'll get a Paddle Daily sticker. And possibly, if anyone is really close, maybe another surprise prize for that.
I hope it's me.
So submit your predictions. And we could be, Billy and I could be totally off, right? If he has to take a forced rest day because of these conditions, he's got a couple of days leeway at this point because he has pushed since 3 a.m. this morning. We'll see. Well, we could talk about Sebastian all day, but should we move on to the Yukon 1000?
Yeah, I like the Yukon.
It is a very cool race. So the Yukon 1000, this is 1,000 miles in the wilderness of Canada and finishing in Alaska, We previewed it last week before it started, and it's a really cool race, very much kind of wilderness adventure. And there's been some interesting early results. Let's see if we can pull up the tracker here. We've got that Yukon tracker up that you can see. So we have just had the first team finish, which is pretty exciting. There's a real variety of racers here. Some are more experienced canoeists and kayakers. Others are much more kind of adventurers, including like surfer, rower, mountaineer, MMA fighters, a real variety. But the winners, so we officially have winners now, were Best Foot Forward New Zealand. And they were in a kayak in a double. And they took an early lead, and it looks like it's been pretty smooth sailing for them. And these guys are, here we go. You can see a picture of them there on screen from the Yukon 1000 race Instagram. So it is Bob McLaughlin and Gordon Townsend, and they're pretty experienced adventure racers and paddlers. Bob is super experienced. Apparently his nickname is Big Water Bob.
Nice.
So we'll say Bob's a very experienced kayaker. They were actually working really hard to chase down the record. So the overall Yukon 1000 record is 5 days, 11 hours, and 48 minutes. And as of Tuesday, yesterday, they were within just 14 miles of that record, which was really tight.
Really tight, isn't it? That's incredibly tight after 5 days of paddling. Did you see?
Seriously.
They cut off, they did a big shortcut round the never-ending bend, which was really good.
I was just looking at that earlier as well.
The Facebook page has been really good at keeping you updated so that you don't have to dot watch permanently.
Yeah, they have been. We talked about that with the Berg, where they did a really nice job as well. And so it's been really good to get those updates, which we know are tough to do from areas with very little internet over really long, extended races and ultras. But yeah, so Team Best Foot Forward, they were really close to breaking the record. They didn't quite make it, but they got the second fastest time overall. And so their final time was 5 days, 14 hours, and 46 minutes. So that's second fastest time overall. Yeah, just 3 hours slower than the record. The record was set when the river was much higher, and that was in 2022. It was Daniel Stodigal and Jason Magnus, Team Bend Racing from the US, who set the record that year. But yeah, really, really impressive for these guys from New Zealand to come out and put down a time in a much lower water year that's just 3 hours off the fastest time ever. And they've now set the second fastest time ever. So yeah, really big for them.
You know, something that's really funny that's happened on the live is my script. I can't scroll down, so I can't tell what we're going to talk about next, Betsy. Professionalism is reaching an all-time low.
We'll figure something out.
Well, we were going to talk about Lydia and her partner, whose name escapes me. Save me, Betsy.
Meredith.
I need the script. Meredith, yeah.
So they are looking like they're going to be the first women's team to finish. So this is Lydia Oxtoby and Meredith Jarman from the UK, from Leighton Buzzard Canoe Club. They actually raced the Sella together last year.
I saw Lydia used to be heavily into the WWR paddling certainly about 10 years ago.
Yes, I think she did quite a lot of it, racing for Team GAB in wildwater racing. So that I'm sure makes her a lot more comfortable on some of the rapids in the Yukon.
They're getting pretty close to the ladies' record?
I'm not sure how close they are on that record, but they're definitely, I think, going to be one of the better women's finishers of the race. I'm actually not sure if the Yukon has an official ladies' record listed, but we did see our friends, the Tetzman Bomb team,
yes,
a couple of years ago. They won the race overall, which was pretty impressive. So I think they probably have the women's record, which is 6 days, 9 hours, and 12 minutes. So we'll see how close Lydia and Meredith can get to that.
I still have no
and then we've got the second place team is Paul Cox and West Hansen from the US. And they are, so we're looking at the tracker here. They're actually still quite a ways behind the top finishers, that Best Foot Forward New Zealand. So we can zoom in a little bit. I think the paddlers are still in their rest period for the most part. You can actually see on the tracker when they're resting. So they've got a mandatory, I believe, 6 hours of rest per night that they have to take. So yeah, Paul and West.
How did our para-athlete get on?
Ooh, good question. So we talked last week about the para-athlete. So this was Team Four Horsemen of David and Chad. And David is a para-canoe athlete and was really hoping to be the first para-athlete to finish the Yukon 1000. Really unfortunately, they ended up having to withdraw, I think a few days into the race. And it was related to some of the challenges that he was experiencing as a para paddler. I believe he's partially paralyzed, and it sounded, there's a video. Yeah, there's a video that was shared on the Yukon 1000 page of them at the end. And his brother, Chad, was just talking about how many difficulties David, faced as a para athlete out there. So it's a really, really hard race for anyone. And I think the idea of being the first para athlete to finish the race is pretty exciting. But I'm certainly not surprised that it first try didn't quite make it. I think it's hugely challenging. So we'll see if they go back, or maybe another para athlete will head out there. Maybe friend of the channel, John White, will take it on someday.
Yeah, well, after his LA ambitions, he might do it. I'd do it with John.
There we go.
He doesn't listen to this podcast as much as he should do. So I'm going to put it out there that he would do that with me.
There we go. I will look forward to following. I think you guys would do great.
If any bears attack, we can just throw the false leg at the bear.
Good plan.
John would be my ideal.
You'll carry John
partner.
On your back.
No. I would run. Every man for himself in this situation. I'd be more than happy going into bear country with John, actually.
Well, I think you guys would do great. We talked about the MMA fighter too, and his bear strategy. That was Jake Quickenden, was one of the who's a pro MMA fighter. One of the paddlers entered. Unfortunately, their crew had to pull out as well. So I think Jake, they had some issues on, I think it was on Lake LaBarge. They had some boat breakage issues. And then Jake had a wrist injury, which he was apparently waiting to get x-rayed. So it sounded pretty serious. So they ended up having to pull out of the race pretty early.
Uppercut a bear?
I don't think it was from punching a bear, but
okay.
More to come.
I think we should move on to the gorge.
Let's do it. The gorge, this is like one of the most iconic downwinds in the world. I'll share a little bit of the video of that here too, just so you can see it. Because if you haven't seen videos of the gorge, they are well worth a watch. There you go. You can see some of these. It is really cool. We'll see some top names. We normally see some top names out there. We have in previous years. So there's over 900 paddlers registered. The gorge is hosted in Hood River, Oregon. This really iconic, beautiful landscape you can see on the video here. And it's been won. So last year, the winners were Austin Kiefer and Anna Swedish in surf ski. So two American surf ski paddlers. And it does attract a lot of the gorge paddlers do tend to be from the US. You do get some international paddlers too. So we had Danielle McKenzie, or now Danielle Richards, was there last year. It looks like she's not going to be there this year. Unfortunately, she is training in Spain in flatwater. But she literally just smashed the Molokai record, a few weeks ago? I think that was in May, and we talked about that. So definitely still hoping to see her in Durban and doing more surf ski later this year, but it looks like she won't be at the gorge. I believe Anna Swedish is going to be there. So I think she's probably going to pick up the women's surf ski win again.
Nice.
Yeah, and the conditions look really nice, at least early in the week. So what happens is, the racers will go out there and basically spend the week playing around in the gorge, surfing, and they'll have a lot of fun for a few days, and then they'll select which day is going to be the best conditions to hold the race, which I think is between Thursday and Saturday. I don't think they've announced it yet. So we'll see when that's going to be, and hopefully the conditions stay like they are on Monday.
Yeah, that would be ideal, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Brett, for the comment. Which lady is doing Meredith and Lydia? We were just talking about them, Brett. Yeah. So Meredith Jarman and Lydia Oxtoby, team Little Duckers from the UK, looking like they will be the first women's team in on the Yukon 1000.
We get a comment on our,
exciting. We did,
on our live. Brilliant.
Yeah. We got Brett tuned in. Very cool. Hey, Brett. So and then on the going back to the gorge race, not sure who all is going to be there from the men's side. So it'll be interesting who's entered and how competitive the men's race is going to be. Anna Swedish finished, I think she was the third fastest paddler overall last year. So if she doesn't have really strong competition from the men this year, she could finish even higher, which would be fun to see. I'm not sure how much she's been training lately, but I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we might
she's definitely one to watch. Yeah, she's hugely impressive. And I think I'm not sure if she's racing Durban. I think we asked Kira about that and Kira wasn't sure. But it would be nice to see there if she can get out to Durban. I think that'd be a good race. And there's loads of outrigger paddlers racing in the gorge as well. It's also a huge outrigger downwind race. And there's a bunch of boys over from Tahiti again. So I think Kevin Saran Jerusalemi from Tahiti won last year. He also finished pretty well relative to the surf skis. He's a phenomenal paddler, just unbelievably quick. So I think he's probably going to have another strong finish this year as well. But some other, top guys from Tahiti might be there to challenge them. So looking forward to following that as well.
That's pretty cool. What about the MR 340?
Yes, the MR 340. This is a really long 340 miles. And it wrapped up a few days ago. The overall winner, so it's on the Missouri River in the United States. And the overall winner was Sally O'Donnell. Again, she is just an absolute legend of ultra surf ski and kayak paddling. So another win for Sally, just phenomenally impressive. But something a little bit unexpected and interesting that happened there was that there was a dragon boat team that went down the course and set a new Guinness World Record. So I'm going to show some photos from that now. These came from Deb Brax, who was in the boat. So they did the whole 340-mile MR340 Missouri River race in a dragon boat. I don't know if they switched sides. I hope they did, because it took them 46 hours to finish, 46 hours and 35 minutes.
Wow.
And then after they finished the race, they got back in the dragon boat and did another 30 miles. And that is how they took the Guinness record. So
nice.
370 miles, the longest distance paddled in a dragon boat. So pending official approval from the Guinness World Records. But pretty cool, pretty exciting for them.
That's a long way. I do know a dragon boat crew in Suffolk that might be interested in doing something like that. That might be a little bit far for them.
Yeah.
But they do some very interesting challenges.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's an unusual challenge, definitely, to take on. But pretty exciting. That was very cool. And I think Trey Reeves was in that boat as well. And he set another fastest known paddle recently too. There's a cool website called Fastest Known Paddle that you should look up. And they're doing something very similar to, we've mentioned John Willis a couple times today, who runs Performance Sea Kayak and tracks some records around the UK and around the world as well on the sea. And so Fastest Known Paddle has also been started. It's a lot of river records in the US.
Am I on it?
Which is neat.
I better be on that.
Not yet, but you can be.
Do I have to submit
we'll see
my
what we
own
can.
time?
I think you do have to do your own submission.
Oh, okay.
But I will happily provide the evidence from your Thames record.
I was going to say, do they have a complaints department if they haven't got some of my obscure records?
We'll get you on the Fastest Known Paddle site. Don't worry. Well, let's move on to the warm down. Billy, what's on your warm down list?
The warm down list. Well, I paddled today, this morning. I went and did a session that is apparently an Orca Squad training session. I went to Oxford and I paddled with someone who we featured last week on the podcast, Sam Dickinson, who was in the junior boys K4 at the Europeans. And he is rapid.
Nice.
Yeah, very nearly dropping me off the standing starts. Really, I was on the limit staying on the wash. Yeah,
wow.
It was a good
you guys
session.
Went out in K1s?
We went out in K1s. It was a good group out of Oxford. It was Sam, myself, Brindy, Kreft, and Tom Dawson. And I mean, Sam was being a bit of a bully. He was also taking leads off the start. He always started with a half a boat length as well. Typical junior. But he's off out to Portugal for Junior Sprint Worlds in the next few days as well. So good luck to him.
That's great. Yeah, we'll be following along the Junior Sprint World Championships in Portugal, which start next Thursday, the 23rd of July.
Do you have anything?
Nice. Yeah, I have something for the warm down. So we just talked about this dragon boat record that was set during the MR 340. I have been watching dragon boating this week. It is one of the few paddle sports that I do not actually paddle or race. However, I have some good friends who race dragon boat, and the dragon boat world championships are happening in Brandenburg, Germany right now, which is actually a course that I have raced on many, many years ago. It's a great location for it. Yeah, it's a classic, just like really solid course. I don't think there's anything. Yeah, it's a good course to paddle. And there's loads. I mean, there are, I think, thousands of people out there racing dragon boat. A lot of them come from other paddling backgrounds too. So there's a lot of, outrigger canoeists, kayakers, high kneel canoeists, even who are racing. The USA Premier women have been doing exceptionally well so far, as well as the mixed team, which is one of the teams that I'm rooting for, as well as, of course, some of the GB teams out there. So yeah, it's been really fun to watch. There's been at times more than 10,000 people tuned into that live stream, according to the numbers on the live stream. So yeah, loads of people watching that. So yeah, really, really fun.
I have one more.
All right. What else is on your warm down?
When my kayaking career finally dies, I'm going to be an aura farmer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. We were talking about this down in Carbis Bay, weren't we, about aura farming, and it's going viral this week. Everyone is doing aura farming on Instagram.
It's great. I am really enjoying all of the videos. If you haven't seen it yet, which I surely anyone, I mean, it's gone viral well beyond the paddling world, which is always kind of fun when that happens. But I think it's a video from Thailand, and there's a young boy who is basically doing like a really cool dance on the front of a boat that's sort of similar to a dragon boat or a snake boat. And he's just kind of chilling on the front dancing, and it's called aura farming.
He's called the Reaper. He's called the Reaper because he's undefeated. And he said he just made up the dance sort of on the spot.
It's really cool. And I've seen a great video of some guys doing it in an outrigger and an OC6. Pretty good. Pretty good attempt. No one can beat the Reaper.
Has anyone done it in the front seat of a K4? Just stood up and the rest of the guys keep paddling. Someone must have done that.
I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna hunt for some more videos on this and see what I can pull together, because it's it's pretty fun. So that is the latest viral paddling trend. Well worth a watch.
It leaves one final thing on the warm down, Betsy.
It does.
You've got to do it now.
Brought it up already.
It's your turn. It's your turn.
We raced in Carbis Bay last weekend, which was really fun. And it's in Cornwall in the UK. It is right sort of on the tip of the UK. So if you imagine the country as sort of a backwards L, it's all the way out at the end, close to Land's End. One of the most beautiful places in the world, in my opinion. The conditions there can get pretty big.
Come on, lead with what everyone wants to know. Who was the bronze medalist in the women's race?
Out of 3 women entered, I finished 3rd. But it's always a joy to finish, a couple of miles behind Rosie Edwards, who's our top surf ski paddler in the UK, who had another great race this season, and she's had some really good results internationally. And
Rosie's
much
flying,
more importantly,
she's doing really well.
She is, and she's local there too. So I think it's all pretty, or not local to Carbis, but nearby.
Yeah.
And actually, Billy, it was your first time racing in Carbis.
Yeah,
but that didn't seem to slow you down, did it?
It didn't. No. Took a huge win in the Masters men category. I was actually a little bit embarrassed when I spoke to a guy called Ed, who was second in the Masters category, and he said he only paddles about twice a week. So I'm a little bit embarrassed about that. But a win's a win, you know. It's Ed's choice that he wants to spend time with his family and have a successful career. You know, if I want to waste my life on canoeing, then that's my choice.
Which I'm sure our listeners will endorse that choice very
exactly,
very happily, because that's,
yeah.
I think that's all of our goals. Yeah, but beautiful location. It was definitely not as competitive, if you haven't gathered that as already, as the UK Surf Ski Nationals in Shoreham a couple weeks ago. But just an amazing place to race. And I enjoyed, so the conditions were pretty small. It was a lot of sort of smaller bumps, but I really enjoyed, especially that first downwind leg. Even though the bumps were really small, they were pretty easy to catch, which was great fun.
Yeah, it was good race.
Yeah, and it can get really big there, which it wasn't this year, but I've definitely been there with pretty significant conditions. So good to have the variety. And I think that wraps us up for today. Please make sure, if you have been following Sebastian Szubski's circumnavigation of Britain, that you submit your predictions on our predictions forms. I've put that in the comments, which you should be able to see. Thank you for tuning in to the live podcast today. We might do this again. We'll see. We'd love to get your feedback on it. So definitely let us know what you thought. And until next time, see you on the water.
See you on the water.